Hey all you action figure enthusiasts out there, JC here with another T&I toy review. And today's review is in association with MarvelousNews.com, your #1 news source for everything Marvel. And for today's review, I'm going to be taking a look at the brand new Marvel Legends 6-inch Silver Surfer figure from Hasbro. Now this figure comes packaged in the same style that we see with all the Marvel Legends. Up at the top you've got the Legend Series logo. At the very top you've got the Silver Surfer name. You've got the figure clearly displayed in the window box. Down below again you've got the Silver Surfer name. On the sides you've got some artwork for Silver Surfer. And then on the back of the packaging you have a look at the actual figure and a brief bio in multiple languages. Alright, let's get this open and take a look at what's inside. Okay, so here's a look at the figure outside of the packaging along with the other contents. Now this figure will be released as a Walgreens exclusive here in the United States. It has not yet started to hit Walgreens stores here. I don't have a specific release date, but probably in the next month or so. This figure has started to see a release over in Mexico, and I've got to give a big shout out to Luis for hooking me up with this figure so I could review it for you guys. Okay, so for accessories, this figure first of all comes with 3 different pairs of hands. So you get a pair of closed-fisted hands, then you get this pair of open hands with the fingers all together, kind of surfing-like hands, and then you get this pair of open hands where the fingers are more spread apart for kind of like dispersing his power cosmic, I would say. And all of these are done with a metallic silver paint that matches the rest of the figure pretty nicely. Switching out the hands is easy. You just pop off whatever hand you want to replace. You've got the little peg on the hand and the hole in the arm, and then you just plug in whichever hand you want to replace it with, and it should fit in there easily and does fit nice and tight. Next up we get these power cosmic effect pieces, and we've seen these before with other Marvel Legend figures. I think this was first included with the Dazzler figure if I'm not mistaken, but with this one it's done with a semi-translucent yellow type plastic, and both of them are exactly the same. They're sculpted exactly the same, and you've got the little pieces that basically fit around the wrist of the figure, and you've got all these like little bubbles and rings and everything, and again this is supposed to mimic his power cosmic. Now the easiest way to attach these effect pieces is first pop off the hand and then put it over the arm and then put the hand back on there. And you want to probably have it so the funnel pieces is going kind of inward towards the figure. It gets smaller as it gets closer into the middle there, so you want that smaller end pointing, more towards the figure is the correct way. Now I will say that these little clamps don't actually fit very well on the figure. They're kind of big, so you have to kind of slide it back to really get it to stay. So you really have to kind of play with it. And it's actually probably better, instead of using the little clamp pieces, to actually use those open hands with the fingers spread apart and then just kind of put the little effect piece around the fingers. It'll stay closer to the top of the hand and looks better that way. And then the final accessory he comes with is his surfboard, and this is done with just a thin piece of plastic. It's actually kind of hollowed out on the bottom there, so it is very light, and this thing is about 7 3/4 inches long, and you've got 1 foot peg here, and you've got the line sculpted on the top here, and it's done with just a metallic silver. So overall it looks pretty good. No detailing on the bottom, but looks pretty good. And then basically you just want to attach the figure with the foot peg, and he's got 2 peg holes on the bottom of his feet, so you can plug it in with either foot. Now because it only has 1 foot peg, I don't know how it's going to stay on there if you really kind of move it around. I mean, if you just like set it there, it's going to stay on there fine, but if you start trying to actually kind of have him fly around with it or something, it might not stay very well. It would have been nice if they'd given us maybe 2 foot pegs, or I like the magnets like Toy Biz did back in the day. They had magnets. Basically the board had some metal in it and they had magnets on the feet. That worked really well. But as it is, like I said, he'll stay on there. It's just if you start moving it around, he'll probably fall off. So for the figure itself, now when this figure was first announced, I was hoping they were going to go with chrome as opposed to a metallic silver paint, but actually having this figure in hand and getting it in the light, I actually like the way this metallic silver paint looks on the figure and how it reflects the light. So I think it's actually very in keeping with the comics and everything. And even though chrome would have probably been cool, I'm actually pretty happy with the overall look of this figure as far as the paint applications go. Now the entire figure basically just incorporates that metallic silver. The only other real paint detail is on the face sculpt with the eyes. You've got the black around the eyes and then the white pupils, which I think look pretty good. The overall face sculpt doesn't bother me too much. He's very non-emotional looking, but when he first became Silver Surfer, Norrin Radd, which is his real name, first became the Silver Surfer, the Herald of Galactus, he really didn't have much in the way of emotions. It wasn't until later that he kind of discovered his emotions when he came to Earth. And so this face sculpt with the non-emotion look actually doesn't bother me too much. I like the way the mouth is sculpted and the nose and everything. So I think they've done a pretty good job with that. And then again, like I said, the rest of the figure just incorporates this metallic silver paint, which when you get in the light, I think actually looks pretty good. Now the mold of this figure is just a reuse of that one that we first saw with the Spider-Man 2099 figure. So this figure stands just a little bit over 6 1/4 inches tall. Here's a comparison with his surfboard, and his surfboard is taller. Here's a comparison with that Spider-Man 2099 figure, and these two are the same height. Now I don't have an older Hasbro Silver Surfer figure to give you a comparison, but here is a comparison with a Toy Biz one. Now this one actually won't stand under its own power anymore because the feet joints and the knee joints have gotten too loose over the years. But I kind of like the Hasbro one as far as the metallic silver goes. Obviously I like the more modern looking sculpt, but I also kind of like the metallic silver. The Toy Biz one had a kind of a blue tint to its silver, and I think the Hasbro, the silver kind of picks up the light better on that one. Here's a comparison with the 3 Walgreens exclusive Fantastic Four figures that have been released, and I think the scale between these is pretty good. Now the Thing figure will be released later this year, but it does look like Silver Surfer will see release before Thing does. And then finally, here's a comparison with the older Toy Biz Galactus Build-A-Figure and then the Hasbro Galactus figure that was released as part of the Marvel Universe line. Okay, so for articulation, it's the same that we saw in the Spider-Man 2099 figure, but we'll go over it real quick. You can turn the head to the left and to the right, and he can look down pretty good, and he can look up really good as well, so good for surfing type poses and stuff. You don't get a whole lot of pivot with this one. Arms attached with your standard ball hinge joint there at the shoulder, so you can get his arm out good. You have good rotation there at the shoulder. You also have that butterfly joint, so you've got good back and forth movement there at the shoulder, which is nice. You've got a bicep swivel. You've got a double jointed elbow, so good bending there at the elbow. You've got rotation at the wrist and hinges on the hand, so up and down movement there. He's got an ab crunch joint, so he can crunch down pretty good and he can look back pretty good, and you get that clicky noise. You also get a waist swivel with this one. The legs, you can only do the splits about that much, and then you can get the leg forward good, and you can do the leg kind of out and back. He does have a thigh swivel, double jointed knee, so good bending there at the knee, has a boot cuff swivel, hinges on the feet, so up and down movement, and he does have ankle pivot. And then as I mentioned before, he's got 2 peg holes on the bottom of the feet. Okay, so that's my review. So overall, I think this is a pretty solid figure. It does incorporate that Spider-Man 2099 mold, which doesn't really bother me. I think it actually works pretty well for the character. It gives him some pretty good articulation overall. Originally, I was hoping they were going to go with the whole chrome look for the character, but I actually think the metallic silver paint that they used came out looking really good on the figure, so no real complaints there. If I had any minor complaints about the figure, it probably comes in regards to the surfboard. Either 2 pegs or even better magnets would have been cool, would have probably allowed the figure to stay on the board better. I mean, you can sit him on there and he'll stay for the most part, but when you start kind of like, moving him around with the surfboard, he will have a tendency to fall off. Now this figure, as I mentioned before, will be a Walgreens exclusive here in the United States. It'll probably be out in a month or so. It has started to see release over in Mexico. Again, a big thanks to Luis for hooking me up with this figure so I could review it for you guys. We'll have a full image gallery up at marvelousnews.com. There'll be a link in the video description below. As always, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. If you're so inclined, please like the video. If you haven't already, also please hit that subscribe button down below. I'd really appreciate it. You can also follow me on my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch accounts. I have links to those in the video description as well. And until next time, guys, I'll catch you later.